What are we talking about when we talk about play? Goofing off, daydreaming and make-believe, lost in the moment, roughhousing and chasing, dress up and pretending, watching your favorite team win or lose, wasting time and doing nothing. Play. I'm Stuart Brown, founder and president of the National Institute for Play. I've come to see play through the eyes of a medical doctor, psychiatrist, researcher, father, and grandfather. Play is fundamental to who we are, and if you miss out on it, serious personal and big cultural consequences are the result. But the good news is that play's presence can be transforming. This program is designed to open new ways of seeing what play is all about and to introduce a new emerging science of play. Play, as you will see, is not trivial. My interest in play, and more specifically the consequences of its absence, began on August 2, 1966, one day after Charles Whitman, a 25-year-old ex-Marine and University of Texas student, had committed the largest mass murder in U.S. history. I had been assigned to a commission to investigate this tragedy by John Connally, then governor of Texas, who himself had been wounded in the Kennedy assassination. He wanted to get to the bottom of Whitman's motivation and figure out why this seemingly normal honor student and Eagle Scout with a clean record could do such a thing from the top of the university tower. Our commission concluded some weeks later that the lifelong suppression of play was a significant factor in his motivation. His play had been suppressed by his overbearing, abusive, and very disturbed father. This prevented Charles from developing the normal capacity to deal with strong and conflicting emotions which had been stirred by humiliating and stressful events for months prior to the killings. We concluded that missing out on play, at least for Whitman, was a devastating loss with tragic consequences. I conducted other studies of young murderers and other violent or antisocial men and confirmed that in their lives, play was also missing. In the many years since then, I've examined both the consequences of not playing as well as the many benefits that occur through healthy playtime. By taking detailed personal play histories from the neighbor next door or the Nobel laureate in the lab, as well as having watched many of our highly social animal cousins play in the wild, the conclusions from these observations are solid. Play is critical to human healthy development. When play is a regular part of our life throughout our life cycle, it transforms the quality of life. We are built to play and built through play. More recently, neuroscientists using the latest in imaging and other refined technologies are discovering that play science belongs as a major separate discipline. The play experts and scientists you are about to see are some of those brought together at Stanford University in 2008 to participate in the National Institute for Play's first conference on the state of play science. My friend and colleague Scott Eberly, creative director of the Strong National Museum of Play, is an eminent historian of play. He has developed how human play is not just something fun we do, but is an anciently evolved process.
Well, first of all, I think most people do get it. I think people do understand play is valuable, and they do notice it when it's missing. They know when they're overworked and frazzled, and they know what it costs them. They can tell when the kids are bouncing off the walls because they've been confined too long, and you know, we know these things out of our own experience and as parents, and if we have pets, we know if you coop them up, they'll go nuts for a while, and we get the crankiness we observe in people who don't give themselves a break, and so on. So I really do think most people get it, but so we're partially the victims of our ambitions, because the stories you hear about people in their who have kindergartners who have gone to the dean of the local university and asking if it's time for a tour of the campus. I'm not making this up. These things happen. The ambitions we have for our kids often kill that playful spirit. And I think these ambitions that drive us and that drive the educational curricula are often at odds with healthy living. And of course, play is anathema to the people who think you only get ahead by keeping your nose to the grindstone.
But there are many cultural forces that keep our noses to the grindstone, that prevent play from doing its magical stuff for us all. Getting what play is crucial to transform education and to aid in the development of emotional competency.
I mentioned pleasure, and pleasure is very, very hard to talk about because it's something we experience, bodily and in our mind. But it's one of the things that drives and anchors the elements of play. Put it right in the middle of the 6 elements of play, and pleasure is our reward. It's the thing that attracts us to play. It's the thing that we look for, and also the benefits that we derive from play largely depend on play being pleasurable. Development also is easy to understand in your own personal developmental biography, the way we learn. Language, for example, we acquire our words, one new word every 90 minutes, and our permanent lifetime usable vocabulary is acquired through play. Learning to walk, balancing the structure, balancing the calves on the thighs, on the knees and the feet, and so on is a precarious and wonderful feat. I mean, puppies know how to walk when they're born, but we have to learn, and it takes us a year or a year and a half to do it. And all of these are fundamental to the things we assume about ourselves that make us human, and we do them all as play. So if you forget development, if you forget play and development, if you drill, you kill, as the saying goes, and if you work so hard to leave no child behind by keeping their nose to the grindstone, you'll leave a generation behind.
A growing base of information from human clinical and field observers is now being linked with the information from pioneering animal play observers who provide objective, hard animal play data. This partnership led to an emerging new discipline of play science. Leading the field of animal play researchers is Jaak Panksepp. Jaak has transformed our way of seeing play through his lifetime of research into animal play behavior. His accomplishments allow connections to be made between the joyous play of animals, how this enhances their brain and behavior, and ours.
We're looking for a solid scientific understanding what play is in the brain and what play does to the brain. And one cannot reach the conclusions before the science is finished. We can be confident there will be a lot of benefits at all levels of the organism, from muscles to mind. And our own research has been much more interested in the mind. Our basic question has been, what does it mean scientifically to have a basic feeling like joy or grief? But I think we have established a scientific paradigm where you can study these subtle aspects of mind. And the strategy is very similar to quantum physics, where you cannot study the quantum level directly. You have to study it indirectly. But we discovered that the kind of emotional actions that animals make naturally, the instinctual emotional behaviors, from anger to crying to joy, play, that those same circuits that generate the behavior generate the emotional feeling. All mammals have very similar circuits below the neocortex, very similar chemistries, almost identical chemistries. And if we can identify the circuits and chemistries that control the instinctual behavior, we have an answer to what controls the instinctual feeling. And we wanted to make a science of this, and we couldn't imagine making a science out of it without having solid animal models. So we accept the obvious that animals have emotional feelings, and we can finally understand the brain mechanisms, and we decided to pursue emotions in the brain that no one else had ever touched. And then we said, well, there must be something fundamental about the social principle that is in the arena of joy. What would it be? And the answer was obvious, that must be playfulness. And there was not yet a science of play. A lot of people had described play, but no one had tried to analyze it in a really scientific, experimental way. So we decided to go with a good old laboratory rat. And we said, well, how do you get them to play in front of you? And the answer seemed pretty obvious. You make them hungry for play by putting them alone for a while. And lo and behold, if you put the young ones together, they played like the dickens immediately, very robustly. And we were hooked. And we wanted to rapidly get into the brain and work out the brain mechanisms. So along with a series of enthusiastic students, we initially analyzed just the physical dynamics of play, and then eventually had a postdoc, Brian Knutson, who said, is there play sound? And I said, well, nothing that we can hear with our ears. And he was a little perhaps despondent, but I said, not to worry, because we have to listen at a very high register, and if you're interested, we'll get the equipment and you can listen in and see if there's play sounds. And he discovered this play sound immediately.
Jeff Bergdorf was the last postdoctoral student in Jacques' program at Bowling Green State University. He is now a research professor in the Falk Institute at Northwestern University, where he is advancing the neuroscience of animal play behavior, laughing rats and all.
When we first started, we would watch the animals play with each other and see that they would vocalize. And then when we were watching them play, we would see that they would touch each other on the back of the neck, and then they would vocalize. And then Jaak got the idea to tickle them. And again, that was 10 years ago. And my career pretty much has been ever since, pretty much in two steps. One, to figure out, does that vocalization really relate to a positive emotional state? And that took about a half dozen studies. And now that we've more or less convinced ourselves that it relates to a positive emotional state, now comes the more interesting question. What are the chemicals that control those vocalizations? Now we can go from looking at one or two chemicals to looking at thousands at a time, at great sensitivity. So we could take a bit of blood or a blood sample, and we can measure, we have the sensitivity with our biochemical assays to measure 10,000 different chemicals in that sample. It seems clear to most scientists that study this that the function of positive affect, smiling and laughter, is to form social bonds and coordinate pro-social behavior. I smile and laugh, you smile and laugh, and then we have fun together. Studies have shown that people who have low positive emotionality, don't experience much joy in life, have approximately a 5 to 10 year shorter life expectancy than your average person. So this is a greater risk factor than even smoking or obesity.